Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabiyari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Kunja Bihari, Radha Kunja Bihari, Hare. Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Balaji, Mai Subhadra. Jaya Srinataji, Jaya Bhagavatam, Jaya Srinataji, Jaya Giri Govardhan. Jaya Gaurani Jai, Jaya Gaurani Jai, Jaya Gaurani Jai, Jaya Gaurani Jai. Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Vishnupad, Paramahamsa Parivranikacharya, Astodhara Satya Shishimars Divine Grace, Founder of ISKCON, Abhay Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki, Grantaraj Shrimadbhagavatam Ki, Their Most Merciful Lordship Shri Shri Kunja Bihari Ki, Shri Jagannath Shri Baladev Mahisabhadra Ki, Shri Nataji Shri Balagopal Ki, Shri Shri Gaurnitai Ki, Nitai Go Premanand. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the Holy Spirit of Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nasta Praishu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhagavati Naishtiki. Reading from Shrimadbhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 5, Text 17. Is that right?
16.
I did 16 yesterday. Yeah. Tvaktva Swadharmam Karananubhajam Hare Tvaktva Swadharmam Karanam Bhujam Hare Bhajan Apakvo Ta Patet Tato Yadi Bhajan Apakvo Ta Patet Tato Yadi Yatra Kwa Babadram Abud Amusya Kim Yatra Kwa Babadram Abud Amusya Kim Ko Varta Apto Bhajatam Swadharmata Ko Varta Apto Bhajatam Swadharmata Tvaktva Swadharmam Charanam Bhujam Hare Bhajana Pakvo Tapatet Tato Yadi Yatra Kwa Bhavadram Abud Hamusya Kim Kovarta Apto Bhajatam Swadharmata Tvaktva Swadharmam Charanam Bhujam Hare Bhajana Pakvo Tapatet Tato Yadi Yatra Kwa Bhavadram Abud Hamusya Kim Kovarta Apto Bhajatam Swadharmata Tvaktva Swadharmam Charanam Bhujam Hare Bhajana Pakvo Tapatet Tato Yadi Yatra Kwa Bhavadram Abud Amusya Kim Kovarta Apto Bhajatam Swadharmata. Anyone else? Tvaktva having forsaken Swadharmam one's own occupational engagement Charana Ambujam one lotus feet Hare of Hari, the Lord. Bhajan, in the course of devotional service. Apakva, immature. Ata, for the matter of. Patet, falls down. Tata, from that place. Yadi, if. Yatra, whereupon. Qua, what sort of. Va, or. Used sarcastically. Abhadram, unfavorable. Abhut, shall happen. Amusya, of him. Kim, nothing. Kavarta, what interest. Apta, obtained. Abhajitam, of the non-devotee. Swadharmata, being engaged in occupational service. Tvaktva swadharmam charanam bhujam hare vajanapakvo tapatet tato yadi yatra kvavadradram abhudamusya kim kovarta abdo bhajitam swadharmata. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Abhay Charanadavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. One who has forsaken his material occupations to engage in the devotional service of the Lord may sometimes fall down while in an immature stage. Yet there is no danger of his being unsuccessful. On the other hand, a non-devotee, though fully engaged in occupational duties, does not gain anything. Please repeat. One who has forsaken his material occupations to engage in the devotional service of the Lord may sometimes fall down while in an immature stage. Yet there is no danger of his being unsuccessful. On the other hand, a non-devotee, though fully engaged in occupational duties, does not gain anything. One who has forsaken his material occupations to engage in the devotional service of the Lord may sometimes fall down while in an immature stage. Yet there is no danger of his being unsuccessful. On the other hand, a non-devotee, though fully engaged in occupational duties, does not gain anything. Purport by His Divine Grace of Charanadavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. As far as the duties of mankind are concerned, there are innumerable duties. Every man is duty-bound, not only to his parents, family members, society, country, humanity, other living beings, the demigods, etc., but also to the great philosophers, poets, scientists, etc. It is enjoined in the scriptures that one can relinquish all such duties and surrender unto the service of the Lord. So if one does so and becomes successful in the discharge of his devotional service to the Lord, it is well and good. But it so happens sometimes that one surrenders himself unto the service of the Lord by some temporary sentiment, and in the long run, due to many other reasons, he falls down from the path of service by undesirable association. There are so many instances of this in the histories. Bharat Maharaj was obliged to take his birth as a stag due to his intimate attachment to a stag. He thought of the stag when he died. As such, in the next birth, he became a stag. Although he did not forget the incident of his previous birth, similarly, Chitraketu also fell down due to his offenses at the feet of Lord Shiva. But in spite of all this, the stress is given here to surrendering unto the lotus feet of the Lord. even if there is a chance of falling down, because even though one falls down from the prescribed duties of devotional service, he will never forget the lotus feet of the Lord. Once engaged in the devotional service of the Lord, one will continue the service in all circumstances. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that even a small quantity of devotional service can save one from the most dangerous position. There are many instances of such examples in history. Ajamil is one of them. Ajamil, in his early life, was a devotee, but in his youth, he fell down. Still, he was saved by the Lord at the end. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshusun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was just reading about Jad Bharat. Jad Bharat, who this is pointing out about his having seen Mother Doe be struck, I believe it was by an arrow. There's even the loud sound, a roar of a lion, I think it was, caused this doe such fear. Jumping over a river, she gave birth while falling dead. And so Jad Bharat witnessed this and saw the doe lying there, the newborn baby. When a newborn baby, the first person who takes a newborn baby in animal circumstances, and I mean you could say probably in life too, they become the mother. That child, because the child is putting full trust in that one who is giving them life now, to support them, to give them water, to give them food, to nourish them. And he did that, Jad Bharat. He did that for that baby deer. But because he was taking that position of the deer, now everywhere the deer went, after he got old enough to feed, he's worried about it. He's thinking about it in his mind. Where is the deer? Oh boy, a wolf's going to get it. A fox is going to get it. I better watch the deer, you know. So he's getting water for the deer. He's bathing the deer. He's cuddling the deer. He's petting the deer, thinking about the deer all the time. And so when he left his body, he became a deer with full consciousness, because his previous devotional service that he had had, which we see here, is what allowed him to retain consciousness even as a deer. To the extent that as a deer in that form, he wouldn't take association from other deer. He went away and just meditated. He stayed in meditation, quiet, separate from everything else, which is basically what ISKCON is giving us the ability to do as well, to live separate from the influences of the society at large outside the protection of the temple. So if you're out there in Krishna consciousness with the purpose of serving Krishna, you're still in the protection of devotional service. You're still in the protection. And we read in Bhagavatam how to create a kavacha shield, which is a shield so powerful an atomic bomb cannot blast through it. So it's created by mantra, but it's given by Guru, and to the disciple that abides by Guru's instructions and uses the mantra for the protection it was given for, then it will manifest. That's coming in the future. I really believe ISKCON is going to be building cities within nations. And we will, by our lifestyles, prove that a city founded upon love of God, upon the principles and tenets of God's teachings, then can live free from crime. As devotees, we don't have harmful feelings towards one another. Oh, I'd like to do him in, you know, or I'd like to. And yet outside, There are thousands of people trying to use their positions of power to overlord at other people and take over this and take over that. They don't have enough in their mind to realize the responsibility they have in society to return what we owe from birth. We are indebted. This is bringing out also how many souls we are indebted to. And without knowing how to repay that indebtedness, because none of society is looking at each of us as being indebted to anyone. We're all free moral agents. We do what we want, make up our own laws, and just live as long as we don't hurt anybody else, which can be done. Nobody's stopping anyone in this country from doing just that. But the point about devotional service is that it develops within the consciousness of the soul who engages in that devotional service, a form of consciousness that can continue after this life because of the nature of the energy of bhakti. So bhakti is of that nature itself that is removed from everything else. It's not of the nature of any energy in this material universe. We analyze all the elements of the universe: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. Bhakti has none of that. Bhakti is that spiritual, eternal energy, which the soul is made of. I keep saying that a lot, because it's not something easy for us to fully realize. Even we act upon the then we are given audience of those who give us the ability to act upon. So we act upon the instructions being given here to engage in devotional activities. Then we will come to realize more and more as we draw closer to the end of our life or our time spent here. But you got a realization about, too, with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's this morning statement about treat this life like the stoolroom, like the stool room, the bathroom, the toilet, the bathroom, the place where you pass stool. Get in, get out, right? When you think about this statement, it is suggesting that we have the ability to determine how long we're going to live here. Doesn't it? How can you choose to get in and get out unless you have the opportunity to make the choice? Isn't it? See, this somewhat of a casual, seemingly statement made by such an elevated soul reveals the relationship he has with Krishna. Which, if you only read through these writings like you would an ordinary book, you will never get the conclusions being drawn by every line, every paragraph in these scriptures as deep philosophical conclusions being drawn by the statements being made. So, how elevated this service is that we're being given, as mundane as it may appear to be. You know, washing, cleaning pots, scrubbing the floor, doing these things have the appearance of mundane activities. Who wants to think they're going to have a successful life by mopping floors all their life, right? Jad Bharat, after that fully conscious life of being a deer, then had to take an elevated birth within a Brahmin family. In the Brahmin family, his father, being such an elevated Brahmin, sought to teach Jad Bharat all the principles of being a Brahmin, right? And by Jad Bharat's own remembrance of how his arrogance, his puffed up nature that he became by considering himself fully Paka Brahman. I'm a great soul. I've accomplished all these great things in life, so everybody should consider me great. See, this is the cause of fall down. Soul's already great. It doesn't have to glorify itself. But when we fall down, if we have engaged in devotional service, Krishna will give us the way to come back. But as we can see here, we don't want to fall down because it can take more than another life. And for Jad Bharat, it took him more than one life because he went into the life of a deer and then had to take birth again in a human form. But by that renunciation, after he reached a stage of development when it was expected for him to renounce and go into the forest, and he did just that as well. And that then was spit upon, degraded, looked upon very lowly, thought of as the lowest class. After that, back to Godhead. So, we have a very fortunate, opportune situation here, and if we can take full advantage of what Krishna is offering us to get the desire in our hearts to have this devotional service as an occupation for our life. If we can think of it like that. And it doesn't have to be restrained to the activities we can do in the temple, which the temple activities makes it easy for us to engage. Anybody can pick up a mop, and you don't have to have a brain to do that. Just pick up a mop and clean. Or pick up, some dirty cups and the people that leave it. This is all devotional service. Pick weeds in the garden. Plant seeds in the garden. Or preach to somebody that comes in about how glorious Krishna is. This is all devotional service. And now, put in such a way that any of us, without qualifications, can take up these activities. Who can't clean a pot? Who can't mop a floor? And yet, in times past, to engage in that activity which was considered the dharma of the age, you had to be born in a certain family. You had to be trained from your youth. You were considered disqualified. You'd go off and go your own way even as a youth. So these activities required so much. My name is undivided attention. So when children are brought up from childhood to take part in the devotional principles, by the time they reach their teens, they don't know anything else. And so there is no combating the mind when we chant of those influential thoughts that may come from outward sources. This guy said that about this, and this person said that and told me I shouldn't do this. And all these doubts come into our minds when we're chanting. And yet chanting, the consciousness we develop while chanting can give us the greatest experience of happiness and pleasure, because it reveals to us what we are. And that's what the devotional activities that we're being given the instructions here to see now and make a comparison in this age, what we're being able to have the ability to engage in without having any complications in our life to set us back from any part of that. When you go to work, just tell a friend you've made at work about Krishna. When you go to the library, take a bookmark with you and just have it be free. That has sayings of Krishna on it that can liberate the soul who simply picks up a book, maybe on economics, but it's got a bookmarker in it that has a statement of Krishna. As the soul continuously passes in this life from boyhood to youth to old age, so similarly the soul passes from this body at the time of death. And just hearing that, just reading that, the soul can come to question about his purpose in life, about what he's doing to be able to get to that state. That's all it takes. One statement you put somewhere in a little note can change somebody's life. Because you're following Krishna and you're following the precepts. Krishna can, through you, empower you to do these things. And as you develop love for fellow human beings that don't have this knowledge, and you pray to Krishna, asking him to give you the wisdom required to be able to actually liberate them, because that's what this message is giving. It's a message of liberation from, and I was just realizing this morning, because I go chant in a restaurant to see, when the sun is coming up, you face the sun, right? Krishna. Oh yeah, the doors were locked. So we got brand new floors up there. I didn't want to step on the new floors. So I'm going outside. I went outside, tried to get back in, and everything's locked. And then with that happening, I got the realization, we're locked into these bodies. We are locked in. If you get locked into a building for evil reasons, right? Somebody's locking you in there because they have intentions of doing something to you. Kind of like what we're in the material world. We're locked. We can't get out of the material universe. Or we can't get these bodies out. But we can get the mind out. And with the mind comes consciousness, realization. And so if the mind is constantly dwelling on the eternal, it is experiencing the eternal. It is experiencing the substance of itself, what we are made of. And so that's what all this instruction is being given to us for us to be able to do, so that by engaging in these activities, we can realize what, in fact, the difference between the spiritual energy and the material energy is. From one perspective, everything is spiritual, right? Because if everything's coming out of Krishna, then it would seem everything has the same quality, the same function, the same, purpose. But there's a difference between internal and external energy, even with ourselves. There's internal activities going on chemically inside of our bodies, without which we would not be able to function as human beings. And the external energy that our bodies put out in the form of heat may rise and change and drop from time to time by a little bit, but it doesn't really do much for others around us or anybody or even ourselves very much. It's the internal energy, same way of Krishna, but his body is not dependent on anything external at all for his continuance. And so that's what this chanting is going to bring us to also, because association with Krishna grants us abilities that we don't have the power of ourselves to create. But what we can assure pleases Krishna more than anything is when we gain that association and remain in that humble state of mind. It's what these mantras, when we enter the temple and we chant the pranams to the Guru, and as we engage in singing also pranams to Srila Prabhupada, so that we can constantly be remembering all this experience of, the environment and everything around us that we have. To be looked at like the gift of life, like the same way life is a gift. Because how many millions of seeds there were with us in the same sack contained by our Father that didn't make it to this state. So we competed against minimum 200 million souls to actually take birth. And all those others that were with us in the very same place, this far apart, from the other souls, millions. They're gone. How long will it take them to get back into a human sack once they're removed? How difficult it was for them to get there. They would take the form of some vegetable to get into the human body. And it is by the laws that govern the universe that the interior of the human body is functioning to be able to give another life the opportunity to manifest the same way we are manifesting. But what happens to those that are never released? That's what brahmacharya is all about. We retain those so that as we mature and we experience consciousness, the same way a mother is giving her child an introduction to the material world that he's going to be, he or she is going to be exposed to eventually, by that mother's exposure to what she eats, how she sleeps, what temperature her body is, what she's taking into it, all these things are preparing the child for what's going to happen in the future. So all these activities that we're engaging in here now in the exterior world are preparing us for that when we get outside of this. We're in like a little egg. It's what the universe is, an egg. And when we die, we get hatched. Hatched. Hopefully, out of the egg. We come out of the egg. But this philosophy, this consciousness that we develop is like the water and rain that the seed develops in its seed state in order to allow it to blossom. This philosophy is that feeds the soul to enable it at the end of life to break out of the shell of the egg of the universe. That outer covering, false ego. Just like an eggshell, the hardest part of the egg is the shell. And the hardest part to break in the human consciousness is the false ego. False ego. Because we're doing everything. And Krishna consciousness, as far as I've seen, is the easiest way to break that false ego. Because all these relationships we share with each other in Krishna consciousness, we are taking into consideration, like marriage. A man doesn't do, when he's married, he doesn't do everything for himself anymore. He has to take into consideration the ones he's responsible for. He has to take his wife's thought, he's got to take in his children's thought. Then he's in a society, he's got to take into the community's thoughts, how he's going to take care of his yard, and all these things governed by so many other souls interacting with. That even by natural process of societal development, normally people who function within society favorably with one another, they develop humility, the ability to work with each other by not making every moment a demand that it has to be the way I want it to be. We can get along with each other by agreeing that some things we're not going to like than others, and other things we'll like very much. It's the way life is, and we have to put up and tolerate. So Prabhupada said we tolerate. Because even we see things around us that we know could be better and should be better. And as we perfect our devotional attitude towards humanity at large and applying these principles of Krishna consciousness, then the more Krishna is enabled through us to be able to communicate to those other human beings we come in contact with every day of how they could make changes and do things better for themselves even. Because Krishna is not giving these teachings to us for his own sake. He's giving all these teachings to us, for our sake. Yeah? So that's what we have to develop also, the the desire to want to give it to others. And then everything automatically comes. That's why we don't have to pray for ourselves, even as devotees. We can know just by engaging in the acts, automatically everything we need to fulfill our purpose in Krishna consciousness is there, will be there. And if we find anything lacking, then all we have to do is ask Krishna. And Krishna's of that mind. We see in everything he does for the benefit of his devotees and wanting to give us full facility to be able to do everything we can to make it easy for others and find how easy it is for ourselves as well to take these principles of chanting, rising early, chanting every day, taking everything we do as an act of promoting Krishna consciousness somehow in our minds. In that way, our minds will be clear and free from what is being taught as sinful activities. These anarthas, see, in Krishna consciousness, people who have 10 commandments are given that because they're amongst those people, those that break those things. But with devotees, the 10 offenses of the holy name are our 10 commandments. Because if we are dedicating our whole life to serving the purpose of Krishna, which is the promoting of the holy names, then with him in control of everything, you have to have the faith to know he's going to give us the ability to do that. And as we do that each day, we're going to get better and better and better at it. Because that's the way Krishna is. So can you imagine someone like Narad Muni, how long he's been preaching? Since he came out of Lord Brahma's body, he's still in that same form. I'm still meditating on that, how amazing that would be. Devotees have seen, there are a devotee or two who have actually seen him in that form. But see, he can transform into an American and give the appearance of someone who is an American person by the fact that he requires that for his ability to preach. Otherwise, he might overwhelm us to the point, just like Krishna does that to his intimate associates. They don't know he's God. They don't know he's God. In Vaikuntha, they don't know him. Well, I shouldn't say Vaikuntha. In Krishna Loka. Yeah, in Vaikuntha they actually do. See, there's the difference right there. In Vaikuntha they have relation in awe and reverence because they see Krishna as God. But in Krishna Loka, there's like a veil, because Krishna wants that personal relationship. You can't be a friend with someone if you're so afraid of them because they're too powerful, right? If there was some giant here 10 feet tall, it would be nice to know he's a kind person and friendly, but you still wonder whether at any moment, if he gets angry, you don't want to get on his dark side. You don't want him to be the one that clobbers you over the head. But see, Krishna takes away that fear. And that's what separates man from God in his relationship, in his development of a more close relationship. You're not going to get to friendship with fear. You get to friendship with love. And then friendship gradually develops into higher, more intimate. That's where the gopis are. But it's not on a same kind of a relationship as we are familiar with in this material world, with some kind of a need we have. That's not the way Krishna is. And so I can only speak very limitedly because I am in the same way like you are in a material body. But I've had tastes here and there because Krishna is kind enough to give us a glimpse of what we're able to contain. You could see the eternalness of Krishna in a glimpse. It would be so overwhelming. You wouldn't want anything in this world. Wouldn't want to be any part of it, you know. If we could actually know what Vaikuntha even was like, we wouldn't want everything, the most opulence in this place looked like garbage. And so, we can't think of the temple as garbage. But even the temple, as opulent as it is made of material substances that will eventually be destroyed. So that which cannot be destroyed, that we have no knowledge of. But that's what is being given to us, the instructions to be able to know what it is. Just to know the soul. I don't have any way of reaching to see what my soul looks like, you know. But that's what these scriptures are saying. We will gain the knowledge of the internalness of the soul by engaging in these devotional acts. It's almost time for Prasadam. I usually leave about 10 minutes open for questions, comments, realizations. Anyone like to share anything? Jad Bharat, the earth was at one time called Bharat Varsh. And it was because he was the emperor of the world and came to that place. So now, but that's the same qualification that devotees, all the devotees themselves who surrender to Krishna, are being given the guidance to guide the world. With following the principles of Krishna consciousness, we have, in effect, in our lives, the means that if everyone will practice these 4 regulative principles, the whole world will be put into order again. And the earth will as well offer in prosperity, abundance, those things which humankind hasn't yet found. Treasures of past civilizations have been buried over by the elements and by the wind and the rain and the demigods, because present civilizations are not worthy of those states of consciousness experienced by previous civilizations who are living their lives in accordance with the principles set down by the Supreme Person. And the scriptures want us to be brought back to that simple living. Doesn't mean we can't use, electricity and these things. But even now, the means we have of gathering that energy is going to be looked at as primitive in 100 years. The flying machines, if it was a dream, I don't know, this is the most real dream I ever had in my life. But I was in a flying machine that was run by mind. And I just recently found out that they have discovered when these UFOs crash, they are trying to, what they call, redesign, copy it, right? Backwards design. They can't figure it out. There's seating places, there's no motor. There's no motors in these flying machines. They only have a place to put their hands. And I'm telling you, it's controlled by the mind. And if they give you a ride, your mind joins in with it. It's consciousness. This consciousness is what it is. Every building in the world has been built by consciousness, by the thought of it coming into being. Every building there is in the world, every society, every structure you see, every form of idea, every invention, it was at one time in somebody's mind, just an idea. Krishna consciousness, in our minds, Krishna is taking that same place that we use our mind otherwise for inferior thoughts, inferior things, machines, all these things that we put in place of Krishna. Right? We put all our friends at times when we're thinking about our friend, putting our friend in place that Krishna could be there. All of the things we have to do, we put these things, we put places, names. Bhagavatam calls the world and our experience of consciousness the world of names. And that's what we're filling our mind with, all these words that are concepts that are taking the place of Krishna. So who do you get? We get an example from that doesn't do that. Haridas Thakur, Namacharya, Srila Haridas Thakur, who is himself Lord Brahma, doing this same thing I was talking about, taking the form of a human being, expanding himself in effect, unless Krishna is taking his place, which also could be. Just like Krishna took the place of the cowherd boys that he stole, Krishna can take the place of Brahma too. So, if we look at how many times these abilities are exhibited by devotees as normal events in their lives. It's like Hanuman, when he jumped to that island. It was like something he had to do, so he did it. He just took it as a stage of his activities that needed to be done because he was given instruction by Ram to go get this, right? So he went. And then also, we have purposes to fulfill yet in the future that we don't even know we have the ability to do. Yeah. That's what Krishna reveals to us. Just keep on applying these principles. Keep on putting these teachings in our hearts, in our minds, this philosophy. When we wrap our minds around the philosophy, false ego is just gone. Breaks through to false ego. Because your mind is taken over to someone greater than you are. And with that acknowledgement, then there is no false ego. False ego is always there. I, me, and mine. That's what the false ego is. And everything is for me to taste. Everything is for me to have the pleasure of experiencing. And that's the false ego. So, Krishna gives us the ability to break it by simply engaging in this service. Bhakti. That is offering us the highest reward. Wow. It's amazing when you think about it. What's being offered by Krishna consciousness in comparison to all other labor, being offered a reward in return. What kind of idiocy would drive us to want to do anything else? You know? Except that which produces the eternal result, which is what bhakti does. You get the eternal result from simply engaging in the same activity, same kind of activity. Going out, buying some food, maybe buying some soap to clean the floor with. Traveling to another temple to see some other devotees. A lot of people drive here and there to go visit people. But are they visiting people to demonstrate love of God? That's the eternal taste. That's the eternal relish that we will get. Just keep on keeping on, and it will happen. And we will love it. Any other comments, questions, realizations? Someone like to share anything? God. Grant Shrimadbhagavatam, ki jai. Srila Prabhupada, ki jai.